Canterbury is a historic English cathedral city and UNESCO World Heritage Site, which lies at the heart of the city of Canterbury, a local government district of Kent in the United Kingdom. It lies on the River Stour. The Archbishop of Canterbury is the primate of the Church of England and the worldwide Anglican Communion owing to the importance of St. Augustine, who served as the apostle to the pagan kingdom of Kent around the turn of the 7th century. The city's cathedral became a major focus of pilgrimage following the 1170 martyrdom of Thomas Becket. A journey of pilgrims to his shrine served as the frame for Geoffrey Chaucer's 14th-century classic The Canterbury Tales. Canterbury is a popular tourist destination, consistently one of the most visited cities in the United Kingdom. The city's economy is heavily reliant upon tourism. The city has been occupied since Paleolithic times and served as the capital of the Celtic Cantabrian and Jute Kingdom of Kent. Many historical structures fill the area, including a city wall founded in Roman times and rebuilt in the 14th century, the ruins of St. Augustine's Abbey and a Norman castle, and the oldest extant school in the world, the King's School. Modern additions include the Marlow Theatre and the St. Lawrence Ground, home of the Kent County Cricket Club. There is also a substantial student population, brought about by the presence of the University of Kent, Canterbury, Christ Church University, the University for the Creative Arts, and the American University, Canterbury. Canterbury remains, however, a relatively small city in terms of geographical size, when compared with other British cities. Name: the Roman settlement of Durovinum Cantiacorum occupied the location of an earlier British town whose ancient British name has been reconstructed as *Daruernan, although the name is sometimes supposed to have derived from various British names for the Stour. In sub-Roman Britain, it was known in Old Welsh as Caercaint. Occupied by the Jutes, it became known in Old English as Cantwebber, which developed into its present name. History of Canterbury redirects here. For the history of the regional area of this name in New Zealand, see History of the Canterbury region. Early history: the Canterbury area has been inhabited since prehistoric times. Lower Paleolithic axes, and Neolithic and Bronze Age pots have been found in the area. Canterbury was first recorded as the main settlement of the Celtic tribe of the Cantiaci, which inhabited most of modern-day Kent. In the 1st century AD, the Romans captured the settlement and named it Durovinum Cantiacorum. The Romans rebuilt the city, with new streets in a grid pattern, a theatre, a temple, a forum, and public baths. In the late 3rd century, to defend against attack from barbarians, the Romans built an earth bank around the city and a wall with 7 gates, which enclosed an area of 130 acres. Despite being counted as one of the 28 cities of sub-Roman Britain, it seems that after the Romans left Britain in 410, Durovinum Cantiacorum was abandoned except by a few farmers and gradually decayed. Over the next 100 years, an Anglo-Saxon community formed within the city walls, as Jutish refugees arrived, possibly intermarrying with the locals. In 597, Pope Gregory the Great sent Augustine to convert its king Ethelbert to Christianity. After the conversion, Canterbury, being a Roman town, was chosen by Augustine as the centre for his episcopal see in Kent, and an abbey and cathedral were built. Augustine thus became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. The town's new importance led to its revival, and trades developed in pottery, textiles, and leather. By 630, gold coins were being struck at the Canterbury Mint. In 672, the Synod of Hartford gave the See of Canterbury authority over the entire English Church. In 842 and 851, Canterbury suffered great loss of life during Danish raids. In 978, Archbishop Dunstan refounded the abbey built by Augustine, and named it St. Augustine's Abbey. A second wave of Danish attacks began in 991, and in 1011 the cathedral was burnt and Archbishop Alphege was killed in 1012. Remembering the destruction caused by the Danes, the inhabitants of Canterbury did not resist William the Conqueror's invasion in 1066. William immediately ordered a wooden motte and bailey castle to be built by the Roman city wall. In the early 12th century, the castle was rebuilt with stone. After the murder of Archbishop Thomas Becket of the cathedral in 1170, Canterbury became one of the most notable towns in Europe, as pilgrims from all parts of Christendom came to visit his shrine. This pilgrimage provided the framework for Geoffrey Chaucer's 14th-century collection of stories, the Canterbury Tales. Canterbury is associated with several saints from this period who lived in Canterbury. Saint Augustine of Canterbury, Saint Anselm of Canterbury, Saint Thomas Becket, Saint Mellitus, Saint Theodore of Tarsus, Saint Dunstan, Saint Adrian of Canterbury, Saint Alphege, Saint Ethelbert of Kent. 14th–17th centuries. The Black Death hit Canterbury in 1348. At 10,000, Canterbury had the 10th largest population in England. By the early 16th century, the population had fallen to 3,000. In 1363, during the 100 Years' War, a commission of inquiry found that disrepair, stone robbing and ditch filling had led to the Roman wall becoming eroded. Between 1378 and 1402, the wall was virtually rebuilt, and new wall towers were added. In 1381, during the Peasants' Revolt, the castle and Archbishop's Palace were sacked, and Archbishop Sudbury was beheaded in London. Sudbury is still remembered annually by the Christmas mayoral procession to his tomb at Canterbury Cathedral. In 1413, Henry IV became the only sovereign to be buried at the cathedral. In 1448, Canterbury was granted a city charter, which gave it a mayor and a high sheriff. The city still has a Lord Mayor and Sheriff. In 1504, the cathedral's main tower, the Bell Harry Tower, was completed, ending 400 years of building. During the dissolution of the monasteries, the city's priory, nunnery and 3 friaries were closed. St. Augustine's Abbey, the 14th richest in England at the time, was surrendered to the Crown, and its church and cloister were levelled. The rest of the abbey was dismantled over the next 15 years, although part of the site was converted to a palace. Thomas Becket's shrine in the cathedral was demolished and all the gold, silver and jewels were removed to the Tower of London, and Becket's images, name and feasts were obliterated throughout the kingdom, ending the pilgrimages. By the 17th century, Canterbury's population was 5,000, of whom 2,000 were French-speaking Protestant Huguenots, who had begun fleeing persecution and war in the Spanish Netherlands in the mid-16th century. The Huguenots introduced silk weaving into the city, which by 1676 had outstripped wool weaving. In 1620, Robert Cushman negotiated the lease of the Mayflower at 59 Palace Street for the purpose of transporting the pilgrims to America. In 1647, during the English Civil War, riots broke out when Canterbury's Puritan mayor banned church services on Christmas Day. The rioters' trial the following year led to a Kent revolt against the parliamentarian forces, contributing to the start of the second phase of the war. However, Canterbury surrendered peacefully to the parliamentarians after their victory at the Battle of Maidstone. 18th century present. The city's first newspaper, the Kentish Post, was founded in 1717. It merged with the newly founded Kentish Gazette in 1768. By 1770, the castle had fallen into disrepair, and many parts of it were demolished during the late 18th century and early 19th century. In 1787, all the gates in the city wall, except for Westgate, the city jail, were demolished as a result of a commission that found them impeding to new coach travel. By 1820, the city's silk industry had been killed by imported Indian muslins. The Cantabrian Whitstable Railway, the world's first passenger railway, was opened in 1830. Between 1830 and 1900, the city's population grew from 15,000 to 24,000. Canterbury Prison was opened in 1808 just outside the city boundary. During the First World War, a number of barracks and voluntary hospitals were set up around the city, and in 1917 a German bomber crash-landed near Broad Oak Road. During the Second World War, 10,445 bombs dropped during 135 separate raids destroyed 731 homes and 296 other buildings in the city, including the Simon Langton Girls' Grammar Schools, and 115 people were killed. The most devastating raid was on the 1st of June 1942 during the Baedeker Blitz. Before the end of the war, architect Charles Holden drew up plans to redevelop the city centre, but locals were so opposed that the Citizens Defence Association was formed and swept to power in the 1945 municipal elections. Rebuilding of the city centre eventually began 10 years after the war. A ring road was constructed in stages outside the city walls some time afterwards to alleviate growing traffic problems in the city centre, which was later pedestrianised. The biggest expansion of the city occurred in the 1960s, with the arrival of the University of Kent at Canterbury and Christ Church College. The 1980s saw visits from Pope John Paul II and Queen Elizabeth II, and the beginning of the annual Canterbury Festival. Canterbury received its own radio station in CTFM, now KMFM Canterbury, in 1997. Between 1999 and 2005, the Whitefriars Shopping Centre underwent major redevelopment. In 2000, during the redevelopment, a major archaeological project was undertaken by the Canterbury Archaeological Trust, known as the Big Dig, which was supported by Channel 4's Time Team. Another famous visitor was Mahatma Gandhi, who came to the city in October 1931. He met Hewlett Johnson, then Dean of Canterbury. Governance. Since 1987, the Member of Parliament for the Canterbury constituency, which includes Whitstable, has been the Conservative Julian Brazier. At the 2005 general election, the Conservatives won a majority of 7,471 and 44.4% of the vote in the Canterbury constituency. Labour won 28.7% of the vote, Liberal Democrats 21.1%, the Green Party 3.2%, United Kingdom Independence Party 1.9%, and the Legalise Cannabis Alliance 0.7%. Canterbury, along with Whitstable and Herne Bay, is in the City of Canterbury local government district. The city's urban area consists of the 6 electoral wards of Barton, Harble Down, Northgate, St Stephen's, Westgate, and Wincheap. These wards have 11 of the 50 seats on the Canterbury City Council. 6 of these seats are held by the Liberal Democrats, 4 by the Conservatives and 1 by Labour. The city became a county corporate in 1461, and later a county borough under the Local Government Act 1888. In 1974 it lost its status as the smallest county borough in England, after the Local Government Act 1972, and came under the control of Kent County Council. Geography. Canterbury is located at 51 degrees 16 minutes 30 seconds north, 1 degree 05 13 E, 51.27500 degrees north, 1.08694 degrees east, 51.27500, 1.08694 in East Kent, about 55 miles east-southeast of London. The coastal towns of Herne Bay and Whitstable are 6 miles to the north, and Faversham is 8 miles to the northwest. Nearby villages include Rough Common, Sturry, and Tyler Hill. The civil parish of Thannington Without is to the southwest. The rest of the city is unparished. Harble Down, Wincheap and Hales Place are suburbs of the city. The city is on the River Stour, a great Stour, flowing from its source at Lenham northeast through Ashford to the English Channel at Sandwich. The river divides southeast of the city, one branch flowing through the city, the other around the position of the former walls. The two branches rejoin or are linked several times, but finally recombine around the town of Fordwich, on the edge of the marshland northeast of the city. The Stour is navigable on the tidal section to Fordwich, although above this point canoes and other small craft can be used. Punts and rowed river boats are available for hire in Canterbury. The geology of the area consists mainly of brick earth overlying chalk. Tertiary sands overlain by London clay form Street, Thomas's Hill and St. Stephen's Hill about a mile northwest of the city centre. Demography. At the 2001 UK census, the total population of the city's urban area wards was 43,432. Residents of the city had an average age of 37.1 years, younger than the 40.2 average of the district and the 38.6 average for England. Of the 17,536 households, 35% were one-person households, 39% were couples, 10% were lone parents, and 15% other. Of those aged 16 to 74 in the city, 27% had a higher education qualification, higher than the 20% national average. Compared with the rest of England, the city had an above-average proportion of foreign-born residents, at around 12%. 95% of residents were recorded as white. The largest minority group was recorded as Asian, at 1.8% of the population. Religion was recorded as 68.2% Christian, 1.1% Muslim, 0.5% Buddhist, 0.8% Hindu, 0.2% Jewish, and 0.1% Sikh. The rest either had no religion, an alternative religion, or did not state their religion. Economy. Canterbury District retains approximately 4,761 businesses, up to 60,000 full and part-time employees, and was worth £1.3 billion in 2001. This makes the district the second largest economy in Kent. Unemployment in the city has dropped significantly since 2001 owing to the opening of the Whitefriars shopping complex, which introduced thousands of job opportunities. In April 2008, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams, controversially made a strong speech arguing that salary caps should be implemented to curb the pay of the rich in an attempt to manage the growth of the economy. The city's economy benefits mainly from significant economic projects such as the Canterbury Enterprise Hub, Lakesview International Business Park and the Whitefriars retail development. Tourism contributes £258 million to the Canterbury economy and has been a cornerstone of the local economy for a number of years. Canterbury Cathedral alone generates over 1 million visitors a year. Canterbury has a high per capita GDP. It is higher than the Kent average of $42,500 at $51,900, making it one of the wealthiest towns in the southeast. The registered unemployment rate as of September 2011 stands at 5.7%.